welcome to the World's Group Draw Show. The 2015 League of Legends World Championship is less than 3 weeks away, and today 16 teams will take the next step to the round in the Summoners Cup. I'm Evie Schogsdepoortere here with Trevor Quickshot Henry, coming to you live from the Riot Studios as we find out who will face each other in the group stage.
That's right. Today, the 16 squads who've already qualified for the World Championships will be drawn from 3 pools into one of 4 groups who will compete in the group stage in Paris in about 3 weeks' time. That draw will happen live right here, right now.
And as always, you can be part of the discussion as well by tweeting throughout the Group Draw Show. Join your fellow fans by using the hashtag World so everyone can jump into the conversation.
Yes, definitely the case. There are 7 different regions from around the world being represented by the 16 teams at the World Championship. So let's take a look at exactly who they are.
Representing Europe's LCS, top-seeded Fnatic.
The reset forward, the Swedish AD carry gets a pentakill!
Europe's second seed, H2K.
Chaos Storm and a gravity stun. Has he outplayed Ryu?
And the third seed, Origin.
Now it's top laners on top laners. Look at the
Overheating,
minions. Look at the damage.
From China's LPL, the #1 seed, LGD.
Gets the knock, rolls down, gets the kill, drinks out the time, gets his flow back.
Oh my God!
Second seeded, Edward Gaming.
He's 1v3, picked up a kill, flashes to dodge the hook, Pawn with the plays.
And the LPL's final entry, Invictus Gaming.
Shockwave on a rookie, dissonance.
Wow.
There's the insect. Oh my God!
Representing Korea's LCK, top seeded, SK Telecom T1.
Bard actually on his own right now. That is a bit dangerous. Whoa! With a huge knockup.
The LCK's second seed, the Coup Tigers. And rounding out Korea's participants, KT Rolster.
Nuclear getting very low, trying to go and pick up a pentakill.
Ferrero, second of the
second one.
Coming out of the North American LCS is the #1 seed, Counter Logic Gaming.
It's a triple for Double Lip. He's looking for Bjergsen. That's a Double Lip pentakill.
The second seeded Team Solo Mid.
Not the one they want, but it is the one that they want. Santorin heads in with the Jarvan Quattro Cataclysm.
And North America's third seed, Cloud9.
Impacts the next one. That's a huge fight. A quadra for Sneaky.
From Taiwan's LMS, top seeded AHQ. And their second seed, the Flash Wolves. And representing the international wildcard teams from the GPL, the Bangkok Titans.
He's round the side, the 4-man Sejuani ultimate.
And coming out of Brazil's CB LOL, Pain Gaming.
Não, vai ser esse!
These are your 2015 World Championship teams.
Fantastic. Those are our 16 teams, and as we get ready to begin the draw, here's a quick breakdown of how the teams are drawn into those groups. The 4 groups A, B, C, and D will be assembled from 3 pools. Pool number 1 contains the #1 seeds from North America, Europe, China, and Korea.
Pool number 2 consists of the first and second seeds from the LMS, the second and third seeds from both China and Korea, and the second seeds from North America and Europe. And finally, pool number 3 is made up of the 2 international wildcard teams and the third seeds from the North American and European LCS.
Now, let's take a look at how the group draw will happen. The names and logos of the 16 qualifier teams have been printed out and placed into capsules.
Now, those capsules have then been placed into one of the 3 bowls atop the pedestals on screen now, based on their respective pools.
And we also have 3 legendary players with us today who will help us out in selecting those groups. Each one of them has previously attended and played in the World Championship, and we're very honored to have them with us.
Yes, we certainly are. First and foremost, we have the former mid laner for the 2012 World Championship second place team, Azubu Frost's Rapid Star.
Always bringing the swag. And then joining us from the European LCS is the mid laner for Elements Fragen. He competed at the World Championship with CLG EU back in Season 2 and again with Alliance in 2014.
And rounding out our trio of mid laners is a player who was on the stage at the World Championships in 2013 and 2014. It's OMG's Cool. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Now we're going to take a look at the rules of the group draw. First, no group can have more than one team from the same region. Next, each group must have exactly one team from Pool 1, 2 teams from Pool 2, and 1 team from Pool 3.
Yeah, and finally, when a team is drawn, they must be placed into the next available group, so long as that would not render the draw invalid either now or at any future point by preventing another seed from being placed into a valid position. For a deeper look into these rules, head over to worlds.lolesports.com, where you can find a group draw guide under the Articles tab. It will outline all of the black and white details, and you can follow along with us today.
So we have our guests, we have the rules, we know how everything's going to work. We're going to go ahead and start the 2015 World Championship group draw. We'll begin drawing with Pool 1, and here are the 4 teams in that pool. From Korea's LCK, the Spring and Summer Split champions SK Telecom T1. From China's LPL, the Summer Split champions LGD Gaming.
From the North American LCS, the Summer Split champions Counter Logic Gaming. And from the European LCS, the Spring and Summer Split champions Fnatic. Now, Rapid Star will be taking his place next to pool number 1, where he will be helping us draw from these 4 teams.
Now, for each selection, Rapid Star will draw a capsule from the ball, open it, and then reveal that team, and it will be placed into a group. Then the draw will continue. So I guess we should kick it off. Rapid Star, go ahead, draw our very first team for the group draw.
And the very first team drawn for the 2015 World Championship is North America's #1 seed, Counter Logic Gaming. They will comfortably sit atop Group A.
First group drawn, and the first seed coming out of the North American LCS is Counter Logic Gaming. The faithful have been rewarded so far. It is the very first time that CLG attends Worlds in 3 years, and this time it is as the #1 seed. They had a fantastic undefeated run in the playoffs, and to top it all off, fantastic victory over Team Solomid, 3-0 in Madison Square Garden. Well, for CLG, they have achieved it all so far this split in NA. We're going to have to see what they can do internationally.
Exceptional performance, and so good to see CLG back at the World Championship after a long hiatus. 3 teams left in Pool 1 to draw.
Well, we kicked it all off. Let's continue. Rapid Star, go ahead.
Well, it seems the LCS regions were wanting to get out of that bowl very quickly. Fnatic, the #1 seed from Europe, will sit atop Group B.
Fnatic atop of Group B, the Season 1 World Champions, returning to the World Championships once again. And while the organization has done so good in the history of League of Legends, and this season they have absolutely dominated Europe. They were the Spring Split champions, and they had a 21-0 winning streak before getting beaten by Origin, but they didn't lose the finals. They even got that over in Stockholm. At the beginning of the season, it was 4 rookies and Yellowstar. Yellowstar now in his 5th World Championship. We're going to have to see what they can do. The hope of Europe is on their shoulders.
It certainly is. Half of the pool has been drawn. It means China and Korea is left to draw, LGD and SKT.
Number 3, let's go Rapid Start.
And SK Telecom has been drawn. They will slot into Group C.
SK Telecom, the #1 seed coming out of the Korean LCK, and the Season 3 World Champion, returning to the big stage after failing to qualify in 2014. Well, their season has been extremely dominant. They won the Spring Split, and they went on a 14-series win streak in the Summer Split. Yes, that is 14 best-of-3s won in a row, and they 3-0'd in the Summer Final. 1 blemish on their record for this year at MSI, losing to EVG. That will sting, and I think they're really going to want to prove that they're better than that at the international stage.
They certainly will. They are comfortably in Group C. We followed from west to east as far as the map is concerned, and I think we need to formalize where LGD goes.
We need to. So let's finalize it. Go ahead, Rapid Star.
And the final #1 regional seed from the LPL, LGD Gaming, in Group D.
LGD, the first seed coming out of China's LPL, getting here on the World Championship on most circuit points and, of course, most recently winning the summer final in the LPL. It will be the first World Championship for LGD as an organization, but they have a wealth of experience on their lineup. Not in the least in their, exuberant 80 carry Imp, who is, of course, the returning world champion, but he's long not the only star on that team. They also have their captain, PYL, Godv in the mid lane, who has done fantastically. Very excited to see this team and very excited to see who will join them in the groups.
Yes, certainly the case. And of course, with that, it means Pool 1 teams have officially been drawn and placed into each of the respective 4 groups. I think it's time to move on to pool number 2.
Yes, and this pool consists of 8 teams, and each group will receive 2 teams from the pool. First, we have LMS's Spring and Summer Split champions, AHQ Esports, and also from the LMS, the Flash Wolves. Joining SKT from Korea, the Crew Tigers, along with the third LCK team, KT Rolster.
Yeah, the second half of this group starts with the second team from China. It's Edward Gaming, along with the third LPL team, Invictus Gaming. From the North American LCS, we have Team Solo Mid, and rounding out Pool 2 from the European LCS is H2K Gaming. Now, the teams in Pool 2 will be drawn by Froggen, so if you can please take your position next to Pool number 2.
He's on his way, and we're going to get Pool 2 underway. So, Froggen, go ahead and draw the first one.
And we are starting Pool 2 with an LMS seed. It is the Flash Wolves, who will be joining Counterlogic Gaming in Group A.
CLG and the Flash Wolves so far. Flash Wolves are the second seed coming out of the LMS after running through the regional qualifier. And 4 out of their 5 members you might recognize because they attended the Season 3 World Championship as the Gamania Bears. They were very dominant in LMS Spring, only falling to AHQ in the finals. Lackluster in the playoffs, knocked out by Hong Kong Esports, but they made it all up. They ran the gauntlet and they made it to Worlds, and so far in a group with CLG.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they have something to prove on the international stage. There's 7 teams left to draw from several regions, and we'll see how the cookie crumbles.
A lot left to go. Froggen, go ahead and draw that next one.
We have drawn Invictus Gaming from the LPL. Fnatic knows its first opponent in Group B.
Yes, it does, and it is Invictus Gaming, the third seed coming out of the Chinese LPL. They qualified via the Gauntlet, and it will be the second appearance at the World Championship for IG as an organization. And Zizitai and Kid will be returning. And if you remember correctly, back in 2012, IG lost a quarterfinal to Moscow 5 back then, but it's a totally different ballgame now. They are the third seed coming out of China's LPL, but from a region so stacked and so much talent, they could be the first seed just as well.
Certainly the case. China is definitely one of the stronger regions at this year's World Championship. Both Korean squads are still available for selection, so if one of them is drawn in Group C, they will bounce to Group D.
We'll see if that happens right now. Froggen, do your thing.
And the championship point second seed regional qualifier from the European LCS is H2K Gaming. Oof. They slot into Group C with SK Telecom.
Wow, well, H2K, the second seed coming out of Europe in a group with SK Telecom straight off the bat. Second seed, it is their very first World Championship for the organization and, of course, the first World Championship for their mid laner, Ryu. They got here on championship points. They ended up third in both the spring split and the summer split. And, of course, they had that fantastic run in spring after the joining of Kasing and the big Kasing effect. Although, at the end of the season in summer, the European teams seem to have figured them out for a big portion, so we'll have to see what kind of new plans they show up with. And they're going to have to be good because they're up against SKT for sure in one of their games.
A difficult start to the World Championships if you are H2K, but if you're going to go home or go big, why not start in the group stages? 6 teams left, and this is, of course, 2 seeds from Korea still in the pool, North American LCS, China, and LMS.
Let's see which one comes out now. Froggen, go ahead.
KT Rolster has been drawn from the LCK, and they will slot into Group D with LGD Gaming from China.
Shaping up to be a very interesting group as well, with KT Rolster, the third seed, coming out of the Korean LCK. And while I guess it's safe to say finally making it to the World Championship for KT, this is a team in the season that was figuring themselves out when it came to spring, but were absolutely revitalized in the summer with Peekaboo. They ended up having to run the gauntlet, beating out Najin and CJ Entis to make it to the World Championship, and now drawn into the group with LGD. That'll be exciting.
We've already got a bunch of regional matchups, and of course we're halfway through the group draw. So just a friendly reminder, no group can have more than one team from the same region, as we have 4 more group draws still to take place from Pool 2. If those scenarios could happen, we will have to bounce teams down the line.
We will see if that happens, but we're going to continue to draw for now from Pool 2. Froggen, please select the 5th team.
And as AHQ has been drawn, it is the #1 seed from LMS. You can see they will not join the Flash Wolves in Group A, so they will bounce to Group B, where they will join Invictus Gaming and Fnatic.
Also shaping up to be a very strong group. AHQ, the first seed coming out of the LMS, the second consecutive World Championship for this team. They nearly made it out of groups last year. Remember that tiebreaker versus EDG? Well, when it comes to their season, they had Fnatic rather and SKT levels of domination, winning both spring and summer, and they haven't lost a single best of 2 in the summer season. Of course, in that mid lane, someone we know very well, Westor, coming to the world stage once again.
Arguably one of the most famous mid laners around the world, and he's going to go up against the man who killed Faker from Fnatic. 3 teams left from Korea, China, and North America. And a reminder, they cannot be in the same group as one of their regional teams.
Let's
and
find out what the next one is. Also shaping up to be a very strong group. AHQ, the first seed coming out of the...
Now, we have drafted team solo mid, and due to the rules of 1 team per region per group, they will in fact
A ver, amigos, ¿me
bounce
escuchan?
down to Group
Ahora
B.
sí,
This is
estaba
to
con el
ensure that
micro
not only is
apagado y
this
ni
draw
cuenta me di.
valid,
Y está
but
muy mal
so
que
are
esté
future
transmitiendo esto
draws.
sin comentar,
So Team Solo Mid
Pero bien,
will face off against
han podido ver aquí
LGD
que ya
and
estamos
KT
en
Rolster.
ya varios
TSM
equipos en
finding
los
themselves
grupos.
in Group B,
Entonces,
the second seed coming out
a
of
ver,
North America.
Team Solo Mid
Second
ahora
seed
se va
from
al
Circuit
grupo
Points,
C,
especially
¿no?
thankful to their, well, great performance in the spring split, but they fell on hard times after the mid-season invitational. Their worst finish ever in the regular split, 5th in summer. They did manage to fight their way
Epic
through
fail
the
por parte
playoffs,
mía.
get the
Me
finals,
equivoqué,
and get
estaba
the
hablando
World
como idiota
Championship.
y ni
On
siquiera
those championship
tenía el micro
points, however,
apagado.
TSM still 5 times in attendance in the World Championship. Dyrus in that top lane 5th time. You can never count them out.
A ver, les
but
explico un
this
momento,
is
¿sí?
a difficult group.
It's an incredibly difficult group, but this is a team that has showed up when the
Bien,
pressure
tenemos
has been
aquí
put
a
on.
Team
There
Solo
are
Mid,
2 teams left, the Coup Tigers and EDG.
que se fue al grupo
We have
D.
the makings of some potential juicy groups.
Yeah, let's hope it happens. Froggen, go ahead and draw that 7th team for us.
Miren, el grupo de Fnatic, el grupo B, pues la tiene algo complicada con los campeones de Taiwán. Van a sacar la segunda bolita, bueno, la que falta, de
We have
Edward Gaming,
Edward
que son los
Gaming,
campeones del
EDG.
split
Now, because
de
a Korean
primavera
team is still left
y
in the
quedaron
pool,
segundos
it means
en...
they cannot go into Group C, which
Ok.
is where EDG will
Claro,
be
van...
placed against SK
Miren, no
Telecom
pueden ir al
X2K.
grupo...
Well, EDG, the
Van a ir al
second
grupo
seed
C.
coming out of the LPL, and in a group with SK Telecom. We all remember what happened at the mid-season invitational, and that is
Bueno,
not
acá
the
tenemos al
only
campeón
thing
de
EDG
la
won
temporada
this year.
del
They
año
also
pasado,
won 2 Master Cups, the spring
su
split,
mid laner,
as said, MSI. However,
que ganaron
the
con
summer
Samsung
playoffs
White.
weren't their best, showing they had to run through the regional qualifier and get that second seed into Worlds, and they have Pawn in that mid lane, returning a champion
Sinceramente,
for
qué
that
fail,
lineup, and,
qué
well, we'll
fail,
have to see if
amigos.
they can
No me di
repeat what
cuenta
they
que
did at
tenía el micro
MSI on the
apagado.
international stage.
I cannot
Y dije
wait.
muchas
A
cosas
repeat
interesantes,
of the
pero
last
bueno, ni
international
modo.
event between these top tier teams is going to be fantastic. 1 Korean seed is left remaining, and then we'll be joined which
Okay.
is where EDG
Now
will
it's
be
Claro,
time
van-
to
placed.
officialize everything in this pool too, so Froggen, go ahead and draw that last team.
Bueno, tenemos aquí ahora la última del Pool 2 y pues bueno, los Q Tigers que quedaron en segundo lugar en la LCK se van al grupo A. Y ahora sí, contra Logic Gaming la tiene complicada porque son los Q Tigers, es un equipo coreano. Y pues no sé, pienso que contra Logic Gaming la puede pasar mal con este equipo. Y pues en el equipo en el grupo B, Fnatic está con los campeones de Taiwán, también la tiene algo complicada.
falling behind and had to find themselves? They did. In the summer split, they got their hands on an 8-game winning streak and ended up qualifying for the World Championship on circuit points. Flash Wolves and CLG in there. I think they might be carefully joyous about that group so far.
Definitely a good case if you are a Q-Tiger.
Ahora sí, contra el Logic Gaming la tienen complicada porque están los Flash Wolves, que quedaron segundos en Taiwán.
And they've been placed into each of the 4 respective groups.
Now we're going to take a look at the teams in pools 3 from the North American LCS Cloud9 and from the European LCS Origin.
And then of course we have the 2 international wildcard teams who won
Y bueno, tenemos aquí el pool 3. Estos equipos en sí son los equipos con menor puntaje, menor rango. Entonces por eso Origin está aquí por puntaje. Y también Cloud9, que la pasó mal, pero hizo un milagro y logró clasificar al Mundial. Y tenemos de la GPL a los Bangkok Titans. Y también a Pain Gaming, que reventó a KLG. Y tenemos ahí a Cool, de Oh My God, de China, o ONG, que lamentablemente esta vez no clasificaron al Mundial. La pasaron muy mal. A ver, vamos a ver. ¿Quién sale? A ver. Espero, quizás sale Pain Gaming y los van a reventar, ¿eh? Y salió Pain Gaming. No. ¿Qué equipo van? Al grupo A. Wow. No. Los Q-Tigers los van a hacer mierda, literalmente. Y los Flash Wolves también. Quizás se pueden dar por ahí con Counter Logic Gaming, que es donde está Believe, pero sinceramente creo que la van a pasar muy mal. La van a pasar muy mal, Pain. Les van a dar lo que, tal cual su nombre dice, Pain.
And then we're done for the group stage.
We're getting closer. Cool, go ahead and please pick the second team from pool 3.
Sí, qué buena la presentadora. Ah, sí. Y bien. Vemos a Cool sacando la tercera bolita. La segunda bolita por Origin se va con... No puede ir contra Fnatic. Así que pasa al grupo C. Y se va contra... No, tampoco puede ir al grupo C. Puede ir al grupo D. Sí, al grupo D. Wow, qué suerte, qué suerte. Bien. Bien. Sí. Está bien, está bien. Se va a un grupo más o menos decente porque está Team Solomid. Yo creo que tranquilamente pueden reventar a Team Solomid. Pero aún hay buenos equipos ahí, ¿no? Tenemos a Niels, Expeke. Bien, ¿por qué no van al grupo B? Porque como yo lo dije anteriormente, no pueden haber dos equipos de la misma región en un mismo grupo. Entonces por eso mismo no pueden ir con Fnatic ni con H2K. Es por eso que se fueron al grupo D. Yo creo que Origin podría ser un buen espectáculo, pero no, sinceramente no creo que vayan a llegar lejos. Y tenemos aquí a Cloud9 y se van con Fnatic.
Well, Cloud9, the 3rd seed coming out of North America. It is their 3rd consecutive World Championship. It was by far the hardest road to get there this year. They had their worst placement ever in the regular split, where they ended up 7th. And well, they had a miraculous run through the gauntlet, 2 reverse sweeps, and in the end, beating out Team Liquid. I think it's safe to say it wasn't pretty, but Cloud9 made it to the World Championship. Very interesting group for them, and oh, that Fnatic Cloud9 matchup. I don't want to remind the Americans of it, but at the Season 3 World Championship, that wasn't pretty either.
There is a World Championship history, and hopefully new stories can be made this year. There's only one last team. It is the Bangkok Titans.
Well, let's finalize the draw. Cool, make it official.
Perdonen, bueno, Cloud9. Sí, descansa en paz Cloud9. Y tenemos a los Bangkok Titans, que bueno, no son un equipo asiático, pues creo que sí, bueno. Pero miren, van al grupo de SKT, así que no creo que pasen.
They're a team from the GPL. It will be their very first appearance at the World Championship, and also the very first appearance of a
Sí, lo siento amigos, lo dije con el micro apagado.
At the IWC, they struggled in the group stages, but did a fantastic comeback and beat the Chiefs in the end in the final to make it here. They're led by their star player G4 in the mid lane.
Y pues bueno, miren, ya están los grupos completos, tenemos los 4 grupos completos. Y pues está bastante emocionante. Del grupo C por lo menos creo que SKT va a pasar de hecho. Fnatic del grupo B también van a pasar de sobra. Bien, vamos a pasar un momento el video aquí y pueden ver los grupos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, miren, aquí estoy viendo que está en el grupo A está Counter Logic Gaming. Y no sé si la hagan contra los Flash Wolves y contra los Q Tigers. Pain Gaming, de hecho, aquí está de sobra, pues la va a pasar demasiado mal contra estos dos equipos, especialmente contra Flash Wolves y Q Tigers. Yo creo que el grupo A van a pasar estos dos, los Flash Wolves y los Q Tigers. Counter Logic Gaming lamentablemente no lo va a hacer. Del grupo B, Fnatic de hecho lo va a pasar. Y Cloud9 no, de hecho no, Cloud9 está de sobra aquí. El segundo cupo no sabría decirlo con exactitud, pero puede ser Invictus Gaming o bien los campeones de LMQ creo que son. Y pues bueno, del grupo C tenemos acá a SKTT1, de hecho van a pasar de sobra. H2K por más que quieran, lo intenten, yo creo que tampoco van a pasar. Edward Gaming se va a llevar el segundo lugar, el segundo cupo. Y bueno, los Bangkok Titans, no sabría decirlo, pero quizás hagan la sorpresa. Pero yo creo que está SKT y Edward Gaming, los que van a pasar del grupo C. Del grupo D, pues tenemos a LGD, donde está Imp, el campeón del año pasado del Mundial. Yo creo que van a pasar también sobrando. Y los K2 Rosters, que pasaron en tercer lugar de la LCK. Así que creo, no sé, acá está bastante complicado. Team Solomid no, de hecho no van a pasar. Sería un milagro. Y Origin, lamentablemente, por más que sea fanático de Origin, creo que no. Aunque podrían darse contra los Katy Roasters, quizás, pero yo creo que del grupo D van a pasar estos dos, LGD y los Roasters de la LCK. Pero bueno, sigamos con el video.
And next we have the 4 teams in Group B. It is Fnatic, Invictus Gaming, AHQ Esports, and Cloud9.
And here are the Group C teams: SK Telecom, H2K, Edward Gaming, and the Bangkok Titans.
Sí, el grupo de la muerte.
D with LGD Gaming.
Sí, los rusos no, están fuera.
Team Solo Mid and Origin. Those are the groups for Worlds, and we will be breaking things.
Es que es muy injusto, ¿no? Saber que los coreanos y asiáticos van a pasar. Pero es que la verdad saben jugar más.
League of Legends World Championship to begin. Things will start with a special Worlds episode of Primetime League from Paris, France on Wednesday, September 30th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central European Summer Time.
Yeah, and you can catch the very first game of Worlds as the group stage kicks off the next day. It is October 1st, coming to you live from.
Y bueno, la fase de grupos, el Mundial empieza el 1 de octubre.
Available and remaining for the group stage. To find out how you can get those tickets, head over to lolesports.com/tickets.
And after Paris, the quarterfinals will begin in London on October 15th, followed by the semifinals in Brussels.
En 15 de octubre empiezan las semifinales, los cuartos de final.
Where 2 teams will fight for the Summoners Cup on October 31st in Berlin. That's it. That wraps up the group draw for this portion at least. And of course, we'd like to
Y el 30 de octubre va a ser la final del Mundial. Y bueno, tenemos ahí, ¿no? A Cool, Robin y el campeón del mundo de la temporada 2, no recuerdo su nombre, el que parece un ciego. Y ahí tenemos los grupos, ¿no? Ya dije mi opinión al respecto. Pienso que, como le dije, ¿no? Del grupo A va a pasar los asiáticos de Flash Wolves y Q Tigers de sobra. Fnatic también va a pasar de sobra. Invictus Gaming o los campeones de Taiwán, no sé, entre esos dos está. El grupo C, SKT, van a pasar riéndose. Y Edward Gaming también va a pasar, de hecho. Y del grupo D, pues, LGD y los Roasters van a pasar. Eso puede decir. Por más que haya muchos fanáticos de Team Solomid y de Origin, pero creo que no. La tienen complicada. ¿Qué opinan ustedes? ¿Están conmigo?
Thank you so much,
a ver, vamos a ver.
Well, it's time to discuss
aquí?
and meet our experts from the North American LCS. We have Joshua Jat Leesman, along with my colleague.
Tenemos acá a los Rioters de Europa.
And from the Oceanic Pro League, as well as the English language LPL broadcast, Jake Spawn Tideberry. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. And the stressful part is over. Now we get to discuss.
Felipe Gamer, hola, saludos para ti. Bienvenido a Live. Que al comienzo fue una cagada completa, pues.
I feel like there's a clear
Y
favorite
luego
in
me di
this
cuenta que el
one.
micro estaba apagado.
So lucky with this group. The number of teams that could have been in this group that could have crushed what most people see as CLG is astounding. And the most interesting thing about this group actually is that Pain is in this, and I see them as having a chance of picking up multiple games within this group if they play well.
Yeah, I think there are two very underrated teams in this group, Yowie Flash Wolves as well. LMS is looking stronger and stronger as a region, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them really challenge CLG and Pain Gaming, of course, for that second spot. But Cool Tigers, to me, is the clear favorite.
Están diciendo que Q-Tigers del grupo A es el favorito completo y que posiblemente el segundo cupo se lo lleve, ¿no? Ahí tenemos a Q-Tigers, ¿no? Que son los que quedaron en la primavera, quedaron en segundo lugar, y en la de verano quedaron en tercer lugar de la LCK Corea. De hecho, o sea, yo creo que también eso, que los Q-Tigers van a pasar primero del grupo A.
In this group stage. Like, the fact that the last time we saw Coup internationally, they were the GE Tigers, and they flailed out of IEM Katowice. Yowie Flash Wolves, they were also there, but they actually collapsed at the end of their regular season. Otherwise, we were expecting to see Yowie at MSI, but they got crushed by HQ, never really returned to that form. And even Pain Gaming are a bit of an unknown because they weren't a strong regular season team. It was INTZ that was #1 in Brazil the entirety of the regular season, and then they made an amazing run in the playoffs. We really don't know what.
Dicen que Pain Gaming podría ser un buen espectáculo, pero no sé, no estoy seguro, no creo. Hay mucha diferencia entre regiones.
Yowie Flash Wolves, I want to see what Mabel can do in the mid lane. Really the star player on the team. Kami, you mentioned him from Pain, so we got some good mid lane matchups. Poe Builder and Koro, more the safe laners, we can say, not the main carries on their team. We're going to look elsewhere for that top lane matchup, Zion Spartan versus Smep. It's going to be very interesting to see this group, and I like the fact it is so open in many ways.
What I think is quite interesting, the first thing that you said was CLG got lucky. You don't have that much faith in them, it seems.
Let's be fair. They had an unlucky blow. They had that announcement that Huhi is going to be their jungler heading into Worlds. That's probably going to be the case.
Están hablando acerca de Xmiti, el jungla de Counter Logic Gaming, que lamentablemente por problemas de visa no podrá estar en el Mundial. Y van a tener que contratar a otro jungla.
As a team finally, very much settling into what always should have been a great bottom lane, but now is exerting a lot of dominance. So I think that they certainly do have a chance to get out. You're just never so sure with the CLG team.
It's the entire group. Again, you're not 100% sure. I saw
En conclusión, están diciendo que de grupo A, los Q-Tigers son los completos favoritos a pasar primeros. Y pues que el segundo cupo podría estar bastante peleado entre los últimos, entre los tres que sobran. O sea, Pain Gaming, los Q-Tigers y los Flash Wolves, que quedaron segundos en Taiwán. Están comentando que tienen bastante, los Flash Wolves tienen bastante inconsistencia en la línea de bot. Y que Double Leaf podría ser la sorpresa, entonces si Double Leaf ha terminado bastante bien en lo que es la NA-LCS.
It's not necessarily your standard build. Sneaky played like a Manamune Varus. It's not what you're going to be going up against Double and Aftermer with, that's for sure.
And that's why I think Flash Wolves are going to rely so much on Mabel. One of the reasons they dropped off after being like the best team in spring, as you mentioned, and didn't make MSI was because the patch changed, Cinderhawk came in, their assassins kind of got nerfed and he couldn't carry anymore. They need him to step up if they want to get out of this group again.
Bien, tenemos aquí a los Flash Wolves, que quedaron segundos en la temporada de primavera, también quedaron terceros en la de verano.
One of the important members in a shot call or in a leadership group style, but going up against people like Smeb, like Zion Spartan, that is going to be a very hard battle for them.
That's quite an interesting stylistic difference as well, because Zion Spartan, we know, likes to step up and carry for that team as well. If you look at individual performances beyond that, what of these could tip the scales? You mentioned Maple in the mid lane, we mentioned Aframu and Doublelift, what else?
I mean, Smeb is a huge player for the Coup Tigers right here. He had a little bit, in my opinion, of a falling off in the summer split, but came back strong once the carry top laner started to come back.
Está hablando acerca de un jugador de los Coup Tigers, es muy bueno, pero no me suena el nombre.
Up against Stake, he can match Zion Spartan, and honestly, against Mylon, even though he is a good player, I don't think he's a match for Smeb.
No, and I think also Coup Tigers, at the end of the split, or the season for them, they found, you know, compositions with like Malphite and Ashe, heavy engaged comps that worked really well for them. So I feel like they've been looking stronger. And even though it's a Korean team, a lot of teams will underrate them and say, we haven't seen too much because then they were bad, then they were good, so they're very streaky in their performance. I think they look good by the end. I think they'll take that into this group as well, and that's why they are my favorites, even though, as you guys said, it's not 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, I definitely
dicen
think
que los Coup Tigers con un 100% de probabilidades de que pasen.
The way that they were able to pull together the IWC tournament They were completely swept.
Acá leyendo los comentarios del video dicen primero Q, luego Pain, tercero CLG y luego en cuarto lugar los Flash Wolves. No dudo mucho que sea Pain en segundo lugar.
We kind of think we know what we're going to get out of Q. The other two teams could really do anything, especially with the break.
Yeah, and I think Pain, just for the record, is the strongest wildcard region to ever be in a World Championship. INTZ, the team that they played against in the Brazilian Championship, scrimmed in North America to boot camp beforehand and said they did well against top North American teams, and they got 3-0'd by Pain in that final. So they're probably going to be bringing it to this World Championship.
Dicen que Pain Gaming puede ser la sorpresa porque hicieron un buen espectáculo en todo lo que le lleva de la temporada 2015. Brasil está consiguiendo mejor nivel competitivo.
And I'm very excited to see what they can do because I don't feel like Bangkok Titans is even close in level.
Well, you mentioned leveling up.
Dicen que, bueno, que quieren ver, Brasil está creciendo como región bastante, que el otro año también podrían crecer más. Y bueno, esperan ver un buen espectáculo de Pain.
I believe Flash Wolves can surprise a lot of people. I don't think it's enough to beat out CLG over 2 games and take second seed.
Dicen que los Flash Wolves pueden sorprender al público, pero no creen que puedan vencer a contra Logic Gaming.
Because again, we saw how good they were at first, but then with the Assassins gone and so on, Mabel couldn't carry. It wasn't enough for Flash Wolves. And I feel like some of the other members are too weak compared to what CLG is bringing in the top lane, and double F, of course, with Afromoon in the bottom lane.
So as a conclusion to this group, it's pretty clear for all of you. Q first, CLG second, does that go for all of you?
Y la conclusión para este grupo dicen que es Q Tigers y CLG contra Logic Gaming como segundo.
Meeting expectations would have been no North American teams out of groups, but I think they got a favorable draw here, and there's a real chance that they can make it out of groups. Let's not forget.
No es el mejor de 3 o 5, simplemente se van a enfrentar todos contra todos y pues de ahí van a sacar, los que tengan más victorias, más puntajes, pues por puntajes pasan, ¿no? Luego ya en cuartos de final se viene el mejor de 5.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Flash Wolves take the second seed over CLG.
Yeah, and after that speech, I'm just going for the IWC region, you know, cool and faded there because now I don't want CLG out. But I think CLG realistically will make the second seed.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Entonces, la conclusión es
you guys have been saying on Twitter from @RustyL says CLG just got the legitimate dream group. Well, that is
dicen que contra Logic Gaming acaba de conseguir el grupo soñado para el Mundial.
And that would have been the legitimate dream cube.
I mean, I tend to agree.
Bangkok Titans, but
no,
that would have been a little bit too good.
Well, our second tweet is from @MrCleverFox. The Fnatic group is going to be fun to watch. They should make it out of there, and that brings us directly.
El grupo de Fnatic será muy divertido de ver y ellos deberían hacerlo muy fácil.
De hecho. So,
no problem.
I said before we went live here, if Fnatic didn't get a group where I could say they would get the first seed, I wouldn't say a word. They can get first seed in this one, for sure.
Están diciendo que Fnatic va a conseguir el primer lugar en su grupo.
Very high highs, very low lows. If they do not perform, Fnatic will take them out.
But they're coming in on a high. You can't just disregard the fall.
Hey, patch changes coming in. You know, maybe Kakao has a bad day. Maybe Rookie dies.
Well, let's talk about the patch changes. So the patch changes that we've seen so far just completely suit the IG lineup to
Which is the problem.
So they've got a very
están hablando que a medida que van a salir nuevos parches durante este tiempo, pues pueden pasar las difíciles en Fnatic. Y acá tenemos a Invictus Gaming, que quedó en tercer lugar en el Summer Split y también en tercer lugar en el Spring Split. Y pues bueno, ganaron, ¿no? Para clasificar al Mundial, los regionales.
This is one of the worst groups for Fnatic to get drawn into because Fnatic is great from a European perspective. But I think IG, in my rankings, is the 4th best team going to Worlds. So they're an incredibly strong team to be drawn in from this pool. And then AHQ, they lost more games to EDG at MSI than they did the entire summer split plus playoffs. So obviously the LMS region.
Tenemos acá a AHQ, que clasificaron de Taiwán, y ganaron ambos, bueno, ganaron todo el año. Se llevaron en la primavera y en verano el primer lugar.
They've never made it out of groups at a World Championship, but going up against IG, what I think the 4th best team at Worlds is, this is just a killer group, and we haven't even touched on Cloud9.
Yeah.
De nada, Jessica Muñoz, me dicen gracias por hacer esto, ya que los vagos del reto de Latinoamérica no lo hacen. Okay. Hago lo que puedo, sinceramente, ya que tampoco mi inglés es lo mejor.
I believe the two teams they're facing matched really well against Fnatic. AHQ is all about fighting early on, loads of fights going on, very aggressive playstyle. Fnatic back in Europe, looked very shaky in the early game. They have had times where they fell really far behind. They didn't want to match these.
Están comentando que AHQ, el equipo de Taiwán, es muy agresivo y que Fnatic al inicio no comienza tan agresivo, sino empieza a tantear un poco la situación y al final entra con todo como una bola de nieve.
It makes me very sad to say that these teams match up well against Fnatic, but I still think on a good day, if IG does not perform, which can happen, it has happened before loads of times, Fnatic can take first.
I love that you touch on the junglers.
Bueno, a pesar de todo esto, de que la tiene algo complicada Fnatic con Invictus Gaming y AHQ, pues Fnatic es el favorito en ese grupo. Y bueno, Cloud9, que no tiene nada que hacer en ese grupo. Están, miren, en segundo lugar en primavera y en verano quedaron séptimo y de verdad hicieron un milagro, sorprendieron a todos porque no se pensaba que iban a ir al Mundial.
Solid bottom lane, AD carry especially. I think Sneaky's a great player still, but the rest of the lineup is just going to be hard.
I am terrified for Balls to go up against the top laners in this group.
Dicen que están preocupados por Balls, el top de Cloud9.
Solo queue has played more games than all the other people boot camping, and he was actually in Diamond 1 and fell to Diamond 2. So he's been putting in the practice to try and get better, but he is not on their level, not even close right now.
Dice que Balls estaba en Challenger, estaba arriba, pero ha bajado a Diamante 1, entonces están bastante preocupados por él. Y pues respecto a Sneaky de Cloud9, dicen que es un buen ADC, pero los demás jugadores de su equipo no son tan buenos.
A year and a half ago, Zatai was a mid laner, so like, I don't think it really matters.
It really is a problem for Cloud9 how they don't have any role where we can specifically say, okay, this guy can beat the other mid laners. So this guy can beat the other AD carries. They have some very strong players across, and from AHQ is one of the big carries in their team. Obviously, Kid and Kitties are not the strong point of IG, so maybe their Cloud9 can match them pretty well. But it's not in the laning phase they win the bottom lane. It's more Sneaky on his own really in these team fights.
Well, that's what I actually wanted to point out about AHQ, is that the bottom lane is a part of the map that against all these teams, I feel like they can actually push something. Even Fnatic's bottom lane, whilst great, is more known for its passive and being able to negotiate the map a little bit more. So I think that AHQ may be able to get a certain amount of an advantage out of that bottom lane.
And it's not a 2v2 in the bottom lane for AHQ. Ziv is going to be there. Mountain is coming down to gank as well. Like, there are multiple people. They're going to roam from mid lane.
Bueno, sí, la conclusión es que están hablando de Cloud9 y dicen que pues la va a pasar muy mal.
If you play too aggressive, you will die, and that's how HQ likes to snowball games into Dragon.
Y AHQ, el tipo de juego de este equipo, pues es un juego de estilo bola de nieve, bastante agresivo. Y tenemos acá el mid del equipo AHQ, que es Westor. Y pues no creo que yo creo que contra Cloud9, que tiene Incarnation, pues simplemente lo va a reventar.
Outside of the laning phase, sometimes he makes some mistakes in teamfights, but as far as it goes in 1v1 lanes or the 2v2 when he pulls Kikaoin, he is
bueno, a Rookie de Invictus Gaming. Están comparando ahora lo que son mid laners.
He's just overall such a solid laning phase champion, and he has a Yasuo, so you have to respect the double wall comp out of IG every time.
Dicen que es bastante experto con Yasuo.
But Febvin is a guy who's shown he can match the level of whoever he's playing against.
Hey, he solo killed Faker.
Yeah, he solo killed Faker. And Westor, it's kind of funny, he gets all the hype. However, Westor is not the guy who wins the early game for HQ.
He loses the lane.
He loses the lane.
Dicen que Westor de AHQ no es el jugador que gane la línea en early.
Well, we'll see what happens. So can I get your
Así que creo que está en ventaja Invictus Gaming.
I'm listening to you.
I don't know how clear this is. Like, it's actually crazy that the group that didn't draw a Korean team is this competitive and strong. I think a lot of this has to go to the growth in the LMS region and how much stronger China has gotten. I want to say IG tops the group, and Fnatic probably edges out AHQ for the second.
Come on, Officio.
Fnatic tops the group, IG takes second, but it's going to be extremely close.
Fnatic va a tomar el grupo.
Both Fnatic, IG, and of course HQ.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cloud9.
And for this one, I think that IG will come out on top. And from what I've heard about AHQ, they scrimmed against EDG, things like that. I think that they can come second.
All right, so IG clear-cut favorites in Fnatic.
Entonces los favoritos aquí son, bueno, Fnatic y AHQ.
You didn't call them number one. They're not that clear-cut.
No. Fnatic will make it.
All right.
Dice Fnatic lo va a hacer, lo va a lograr.
On the group draw from the other side of the rift. Rift is standing by with Europe's Fragen.
Pues
Thank you very much, Shocks. Now, as we give everybody a little time to digest,
tenemos a un caster de Norteamérica.
Figure out all the information that you guys were talking about.
I am here with Froggen from the European LCS, who helped us draw out the groups from the Pool 2. So you had all.
Froggen ayudó a hacer el sorteo del Pool 2.
The fans there are quite happy about it. You yourself were in a very similar position just a year ago, and I want to ask you, as a team, what is the anticipation like getting ready to be placed? Are you just kind of hoping for the easy picks?
It's actually kind of nerve-wracking, because if you think about it, if you just get the easy picks, then you don't really get tested going in. Like, if you advance from groups, you don't really get actually tested, right? So you want a mix of between, like, you want to get tested, but you also want to make sure that you can make it through. So it's kind of nerve-wracking, but in the end, you still have to win against the best teams. Like, if you want to keep advancing, you need to keep winning. So it really doesn't really matter too much who you're going to get matched up against.
So it's just kind of the anticipation of being placed. Now, looking at the way things panned out, do you think anybody kind of got an easy ride through groups?
It's hard to say. Like, Group A, I really think anyone of, like, outside of crew can really get second. And then, like, obviously, CLG has some faith there, and Fnatic is going to get really tested in their group to see if they actually are a top 4 team.
And that's my second question. How actually do you think Europe itself fared throughout the group draw?
Yeah, I mean, Fnatic is going to get really tested, right? And then H2K, I don't really see them have much of a chance, but in the group, we do get to see Faker versus Pawn and versus Ryu again. So Korean mid laners up there, going to be a really exciting group. So.
Bueno, más que nada están comentando acerca de... Bueno, ahora están hablando de Europa, ¿no? De AHQ. Puede ser una sorpresa para el grupo C.
Thank you very much for the insight and again joining us. Now we are going to send it back over to Shox and our analysts for C&D.
I can't help but think that Froggen actually has a big smirk on his face talking about the European teams and their chances. And there we have, of course,
Sinceramente no le entendí casi nada. Froggen habla medio raro.
H2K, EDG, and the Bangkok Titans. Let's start maybe with H2K and that European team. They are the second seed coming out of Europe, but the expectations weren't that high to begin with, and this might be a very tough group to get out of, Fisho.
Tough, impossible. I think you can say this is 2 out of the 3 best teams in the world in the top of the group, and then we have H2K.
Tenemos acá, están hablando ahora de H2K de Europa, que quedaron terceros en el primavera y terceros también en verano.
Fairly recently coming into this year. They got the second seed, obviously, by getting the most championship points. But Origin was a better team than they were by the end of the split.
Talk about a hard group for H2K. They weren't ever finishing in the top 2 in the European LCS, and now they have to play the #1 team from Korea. And before a playoff collapse, what was supposed to be a shoo-in for the #1 team in China.
Bueno, H2K va a enfrentar al primer equipo en Corea, ¿no?
They couldn't do it in Europe.
Well, the thing about EDG is, if we pick it up from there, is the fact that they did have that mini collapse at the end of the season. And then they played with Amazing J when they made the run through the gauntlet. So I think that there are some question marks around this team about how good
Tenemos aquí a Hector Gaming, que quedó primer lugar en la primavera y en verano quedaron en cuarto lugar, pero lograron clasificar al Mundial como en segundo lugar en las regionales.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw EDG, MSI, of course, beating SKT. One of the reasons was they could handle Faker in the mid lane. That's counter picks ready for his LeBlanc and so on. They clearly had a good strategy facing SKT, and I think they match up really well against them because they are so stacked in this lineup. They can duel Marin and Faker and so on in the early game with these strong players.
And they also play their style. So who they play against doesn't actually really affect EDG because they always like to play a similar style. They like to group up Mako, they like to group up Clearlove.
Dice que si Hector Gaming casi no le importa mucho contra quién se vaya a enfrentar porque ellos siempre juegan bastante agrupados.
The pick ban phase is still an issue for this team and it actually has been all season long. Even MSI, they had pick ban issues. So I think that they will continue to maybe have some hiccups, but you would expect them to perform reasonably well.
Yeah, one thing I like about this is since SKT and EDG are in the same group, probably 2 of the favorites to win Worlds, if they both make it out of the groups, they can't play each other again until the final. So this may actually be just kind of.
Dicen que SKT y Hector Gaming pues son los favoritos del grupo C y que sinceramente pueden pasar a las finales y enfrentarse de nuevo. Y son los favoritos. Ambos SKT y Hector Gaming son los favoritos para ganar el mundial.
We have Pawn, we have Ryu, we have Faker, and we have G4 from the Bangkok Titans as well. This is a pretty stacked mid lane group.
He's going to have fun.
Yep.
That's for
Good
sure.
Times.
Probably can learn quite a lot. I mean, he was very strong mid lane against Chiefs, at least. I mean, you know.
Well, the thing about G4 is he doesn't play like other mid laners. This guy will never team fight. He just split pushes all day. Like, after 25 minutes, he sits in the bottom lane and just never regroups. And he plays very unorthodox picks. Thinks Aurelia, like, he was still playing Zed, he still plays things.
Tenemos aquí a los Bangkok Titans, que quedaron en segundo lugar en el Spring Split, y en Summer Split quedaron como primeros. Y bueno, ganaron la International White Card.
The subtle trash talk Pawn gives Faker every time he wins an event of some kind.
Sneak it in there.
I mean, he has beaten Faker as a team, but he takes some credit for it.
H2K also said when they qualified, if Ryu gets to face Faker, they will first pick Zed. So we got to see now. Well, they will have one game on blue side. If that first pick Zed comes in,
Riven.
He will take the Riven.
Hey, they didn't guarantee an outcome.
Dicen que Ryu de H2K, como es el coreano, va a elegir a Zed y que Faker va a elegir a Riven. Este va a ser un enfrentamiento entre coreanos.
Some other great mid laners in the mix as well.
Well, in terms of clear-cut groups, we maybe said in Group A some things could happen to CLG, but this one seems to be very, very clear-cut.
Yeah, as far as who we think the top two teams are, now the ordering of SKT and EDG I think is up for some pretty heavy debate, right? As far as this group thinks, I think SKT will take it. 21 Korean starters went to China at the very start of this year, and that gutted a bunch of Korean teams. But I feel like the team that was untouched by that was SKT, which is why they've been so dominant in that region, as well as having Faker, as well as improving throughout the year. And I think, honestly, with more consistency in their lineup with Bengi and Faker and the meta rolling back in towards their favor, I think they can take down EDG this time around.
Dicen que H2K, SKT va a tomar el primer lugar, tranquilamente.
EDG, if
they play tiebreaker, you got to.
Sure.
Ya que es un equipo con bastante consistencia.
I mean, EDG in the playoffs will lose to SKT, but EDG in the regionals where they look to really bounce back, they look strong once again.
Ether Gaming dicen que va a perder contra SKT.
I feel like this team, what SKT does so well is they skirmish so well in the early game where other teams can handle Faker, they can handle Marin, and Benki provides a lot of pressure for both of them around the soul lanes. EDG can match it, and that's my concern for SKT, because then also you have depth for these late game team fights coming in, and Mako, in my opinion, is a better support than Wolf. At least he's more stable. Wolf tends to struggle a little bit under pressure.
Mako's a better support than Wolf. We saw that at MSI.
Exactly. He took basically the champs away from him. He outplayed him. That's going to be in favor of EDG. Is it enough to win? Almost impossible.
Sí que pueden tomar como ventaja que el soporte de SKT, Wolf, no es tan bueno. Pues eso puede ser una gran ventaja para poder hacerlo bien y ganar a SKT.
I think they can beat LGD, but I think EDG just have something over them. I don't know what it is. After watching MSI, I think that Aaron's figured it out and Pawn's figured it out, and they seem to have a winning recipe.
Fisher?
EDG takes it.
Number 1 seed?
Yeah, SKT number 1 seed. I do think.
Dicen que Ether Gaming va a tomar primer lugar, pero él dice que va a tomar, bueno, SKT.
This dude is the best player in Korean solo queue consistently, and he outplays the crap out of people when given the opportunity. And just because he's on a team with Faker and a bunch of other superstars does not detract from his skill in my
Bang is really good. Deft and Mako is better than Bang and Wolf.
I agree.
We will see it. We will see in 3 weeks, actually. Yeah. Very exciting. That's it for Group C. We're going to see what all of you guys have to say there about Groups C and D. At Inappropriate80 tweeted, oh my God, Ryu versus Faker. Not just that, all these mid lanes we've
Están comentando en Twitter acerca de...
Okay, that's it.
Oh, Dios mío, Ryu versus Faker. Duelo de coreanos.
We'll see you in 3 weeks. The second tweet is at Purple Ferret said, Group D, Group of Death confirmed. So
el grupo D dicen que es el grupo de la muerte.
TSM and Origin. So maybe I'd agree for the first half of it, but I think that no, just kidding. The combination of the teams and their strengths.
En el grupo D está Origin con XPK y Team Solomit, ¿no?
I would maybe argue Group B is a little bit closer in that sense in multiple teams.
Lo curioso es que Amazing, el jugador de Origin, estaba en Team Solomit anteriormente.
Put them up there as the second seed, of course, had a strong performance, not against SKT, but at least in the playoffs and the run towards playoffs. They started looking better and better with Peekaboo, Score roaming together. Team Solomit and Origin, I mean, I think they're good teams, but this group is just going to be so difficult for them to do anything in.
Dicen que son buenos equipos Origin y Team Solomid, pero lamentablemente la van a pasar muy mal en ese grupo.
They've got strength all over the map, and they've got Flame sitting on the bench. So when you can afford to do that to one of the
Están contra LGD, donde está Imp, el ADC, que ganó el Mundial el año pasado.
Acorn's playing fantastically. First person to pull out the competitive Fiora.
Quedaron segundos en el split del año de primavera. Primeros en el verano.
Arguably the weakness of it, and then when you look at the relative strength of junglers in this competition, you probably don't even say it's a weakness at this point. So I think that LGD are probably going to be the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
Dicen que LGD va a quedar primero. Ahí está Imp, quien les hablo.
Throughout all of the
AD carry de
you're banning
LGD.
2 or 3 AD carries, which is strange because the drop off between his best AD carry and his second best AD carry still means he carries the game. So it's
Imp es conocido por haber hecho llorar a Piglet.
Any AD carry, don't give him Twitch.
But
if you're a Western team, don't let him play Twitch.
And then it makes Lulu
Dicen, no le dejen jugar Twitch.
Plays in the top lane, doesn't take away from the assassination potential, and it just teams up so well.
So basically, don't give anyone on LGD any champion at all.
Yes.
All right, so let's move on then to the second seed, which is what the discussion seems to be about for you guys.
Dice que
And if you look at the
LGD es el favorito definitivo del grupo D.
If Origin, with all their experience, does step up absolutely to the plate, they can contest it.
I think there are definitely 2 clear favorites, as we mentioned, but I think
2
clear favorites in this group, LGD and KT Rolster. And I think Team Solomid and Origin are not completely counted out. So yes, TSM had some severe struggles at MSI and in the summer split.
Dicen que Team Solomid tenía problemas, pero quizás pueda aún hacerlo.
But if we think about the way TSM boot camps historically, ever since they've been a team, whenever they have a long amount of time to prepare for a tournament, they always come at it stronger. Loco Doco as well has a better Korean network than
cada vez se vuelven más fuertes este equipo, ¿no? Con el tiempo.
If a team is going to be vastly improved coming into Worlds, it will be TSM, but there's obviously no guarantees.
Yeah, Origin also joined.
Pero de todos modos eso no garantiza que vayan a pasar a la siguiente fase.
Days ago, I believe, started practicing, so we don't really know how well they're doing. But if you look at the 2 teams against each other, it's kind of funny how Team Solomid always, of course, is so much about Bjergsen in this mid lane here. We see Centurion trying to gank for him. Origin is the opposite. You never gank for Pekka in the mid lane. He sits on farms, he scales up to late game. It's all about playing the side lanes. It's about Mythy and Amazing roaming together, which I think is something Origin will have.
Dicen que Mythy y Amazing de Origin son los que más hacen roaming en el juego y pues ayudan a todo el equipo.
I completely agree with that, but there's always that window if you do isolate the mid lane, then Bjergsen.
En cambio, en el equipo de Team Solomid podemos ver a Bjergsen haciendo roaming y gankeando.
7 to 8 times out of 10, it certainly goes in that roaming duo support and jungle, but every now and again, Bjergsen's just going to be able to step in.
Yeah, and I think this season more than any has been about the jungle and the support synergizing and roaming together, which is I think one of the big things that can.
Dicen que esta temporada ha sido muy común ver el soporte y al jungla juntos haciendo roaming para gankear.
Reasons KT Rolster could make their resurgence is because Peekaboo and Score had such great synergy. The same can be said about Origin.
Y dicen que en el equipo de KT Rosters, el soporte de ese equipo y el jungla pues tienen una sinergia tremenda para hacer eso. Pueden ser un peligro para todos los
Origin
equipos.
was one of those teams that when Fnatic was playing very well, were able to really stretch Fnatic, and when I watched that series, I was definitely impressed with how they were drafting and how they were able to execute on specific game plans, especially if you look back onto their Gangplank game. So I think that that's going to be one of the teams that, at least strategically, because of all the experienced players, will be able to take it to the likes of the KTs and maybe even the maybe not LGD, on a strategic level, not on a gameplay level, but coming into a game with a clear win condition is what I'm trying to say.
I do think they match up well against KT Rolster because of Mythy and Amazing together, and I think Soas.
Dicen que pueden hacer un buen match contra los KT Rosters o Origin.
Got a lot of flack from the community. He returns, and he's honestly been looking absolutely fantastic up in the top lane. He beat Huni in the final over multiple games.
With Gangplank.
With Gangplank.
He was by far the first person on the Gangplank.
He was, and he was the best.
Estoy comentando que Soas le ganó a Huni en la final de la SIS Europa.
Match what KT Rolster likes to do with Peekaboo, with Score up there, try and counter them in the early game, because that is a team. While they do team fight really well, they often rely on that early game to get the lead, to start snowballing, and then they team fight so well later.
But is Soas better than Someday? Like, that's a big question. You can say that he was able to take it up there in the top lane, but Someday is a very experienced top laner.
I don't think
and he likes to play a similar style.
Yeah, Someday had more MVP points than
Y
Faker.
acá está presentando a el top Sunday de los KT Rosters. Y dice que llegó a ser el MVP de la LCK.
Top lane carrying is highly encouraged. So then he will be
y y tiene un IKD bastante bueno para saber, para crear partidas.
Well, I know who will be receiving a mad tweet from SOAS tonight if I use this fish.
Hey, I mean, SOAS always likes to tweet if I say something wrong about him, but I love SOAS. I think he's a fantastic top laner, but I think someday is better.
And that's what I'm trying to get at.
Dicen que SOAS es un buen top laner, pero no puede hacer nada contra Sunday.
When you look at Sunday, for a carry top laner, I don't even know if you can look past him in the competition, let alone in the group.
Yeah, it's Worlds. Dyrus is at his 5th World
It's
Championship.
my line.
Hey.
It's Worlds.
Man.
But it's the 5th World Championship for Dyrus, and he's up against almost the stiffest competition he's ever had to face.
Time to spam Darius.
Time to step up for him. So just to wrap up Group D for you guys, LGD clear-cut favorite, and then
Bueno,
KT,
claro,
KT.
Yeah, LGD KT.
bueno, LGD y KT.
Well, that is unanimous for that
Todos
group as well,
están
and that is
de
it
acuerdo en
for
eso y
our experts have to
piensan
say
que
that
LGD y
Sorteo will
KT
make it
Rosters
out
van a
of the
pasar en el
group
grupo D.
stage, but you can still
Lamentablemente
chime in as
Origin
well.
y TSM
Beginning tomorrow, you can
la
play the
pasan
World
mal.
Championship Pick'em Challenge and predict how the teams will perform at Worlds. There's some very cool prizes involved as well, so head over to pick'em.lolesports.com where you can get all of the details and play. And that wraps things up for our group analysis. The next time we will see you will be at the start of the 2015 League of Legends World Championship. Be sure to tune into a special Paris edition of Primetime
Bueno,
League
creo
on
que ya
September
están
30th,
terminando, se están
followed by the
despidiendo.
kickoff of the group stage on October 1st. For myself, the entire broadcast team,
Y
thank
bueno,
you so much
ya se
for
terminó el
tuning in, as
sorteo.
well as thank you to our special guest that assisted at the draw, and to everyone watching as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in Paris. Au revoir.
Y pues bueno, en París será lo que es los playoffs para terminar los cuartos de final. Y bueno, ahí tenemos, ¿no? La fase de grupos será en octubre, 1 de octubre. Y tenemos aquí a grupo A, a Counter Logic Gaming, a los Flash Wolves, a los Cool Tigers, a Pain Gaming. En el grupo B a Fnatic, Victus Gaming, AHQ y Cloud9. Grupo C, CKTT1. Tenemos a H2K, Edward Gaming y los Bangkok Titans. En el grupo D, LGD, favoritos completos de este grupo. Los Cattle Roasters, King Solomid y Origin. Grupo D la muerte. Y pues bueno amigos, espero que les haya gustado mucho esto. Esto ha sido sinceramente una improvisación, primera vez que hago esto. Y pues bueno, para la próxima oportunidad lo voy a preparar mucho, pero mucho mejor de lo que fue el día de hoy. Más bien un saludo a todos los que estuvieron aquí comentando, escribiendo en los comentarios, y de verdad se agradece bastante el apoyo. Y pues bueno, espero verlos en otra transmisión. Probablemente haga también lo mismo para lo que es el Mundial. Si me alcanza el tiempo, por supuesto, podría hacer transmisiones en vivo comentando las jugadas del Mundial y todo esto, pero bueno, vamos a ver qué tal. Y pues bueno, muchas gracias por estar aquí en la transmisión. Se agradece y nada, me despido. DarKayserLeo aquí se despide y les manda un gran abrazo, un gran saludo a todos y hasta la próxima. Probablemente más tarde ya live stream de League of Legends, así que pendientes a mi canal, por favor, ¿sí? Así que amiguitos, hasta la próxima. Nos vemos en la siguiente transmisión. Adiós y gracias por estar aquí, ¿sí? Adiós, nos vemos.